The Dallas Cowboys and the Miami Dolphins, each with 6-3 records, are chasing their division leaders. The high-scoring Dolphins quickly turned 2 Dallas fumbles into touchdowns and a 20-3 halftime lead. This Miami 69-yard pass play from quarterback Bob Griese, number 12, to number 89, Nat Moore, was the last Dallas defensive mistake. And fortunately, it was nullified by a holding penalty. Afterwards, the Dallas defense did most of the holding. They held Miami's Delvin Williams, number 24, professional football's leading ground gainer, to only 26 yards. 26 yards is almost how far Dallas wide receiver number 80, Tony Hill, stretched his average on each of 4 catches for 99 yards. Scrambling to within 7 points of Miami, Dallas quarterback Roger Staubach completes a league-leading 17th touchdown pass to number 89, tight end Billy Joe Dupree. Whenever scoring opportunities were presented for the potent Dallas offense to seize control, they were hit by costly turnovers and untimely mistakes. A Miami 23-16 lead and 6 seconds left in the game left Dallas still one more opportunity to wake up that old last-minute magic. But once again, a costly mistake left Dallas with too little, and they lost 23-16. Another team with offensive problems is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Quarterback Doug Williams had a broken jaw, and the scavenging Los Angeles Rams picked at the bones of his backup Mike Ray, number 15. The Rams sacked Ray 8 times and even had the audacity to pick on the coach's son, John McKay Jr., who was kissed hello on the sidelines. The Rams treated the tough Bucs defense with even less respect, as Pat Hayden hooked up with Billy Waddy for a 69-yard spectacular. The usually stodgy Rams were unusually daring as a fake field goal turned into a 16-yard touchdown. Number 21, Nolan Cromwell, is a Ram defensive back, but at the University of Kansas, he was a highly rated wishbone quarterback and a former Player of the Year in the Big 8. Los Angeles built a comfortable 20-9 lead in the third quarter, but number 42, Ricky Bell, used to roam these Coliseum sidelines at length at USC. Bell rushed for over 100 yards, and Tampa Bay rolled up over 400 yards on the day against a defense that was ranked number 1 in the entire NFL. With 56 seconds remaining, Tampa Bay tied the game at 23 on this Mike Ray pass to J.K. McKay. The game, which began as a blowout, now seems certain to stretch into overtime. With 42 seconds left, the Rams launched a drive from their 10-yard line as Pat Hayden used the clock and sideline routes to Willie Miller to march his team downfield. Los Angeles traveled 80 yards to the Buccaneers' 10, where rookie Frank Corral booted a 27-yard field goal with 6 seconds left to cap a magnificent Ram victory. Not so long ago, a Kansas City-Oakland game provided a forum for one of pro football's very best rivalries. It may not be as heated as it once was, but it still brought out the crowd at Arrowhead Stadium last week. And for a while, the Chiefs kept the game interesting with some stout defense and an occasional burst of offensive might. Raider quarterback Ken Stabler may have sought help from higher authorities after throwing 3 more interceptions to add to his very un-Stabler-like season total of 23. Oakland overcame this, though, with help from rookie running back Art Whittington, number 22, who enjoyed a 100-yard day. His efforts helped the Raiders beat KC 20-10, Oakland's 7th straight win over the Chiefs. Another rookie running star has begun to come on in recent weeks for Cincinnati. He's number 22, Dave Turner, who last week against the Chargers added some badly needed punch to the feeble Bengal attack. But the Bengals have tallied the fewest points of any NFL team this year, and they found scoring on San Diego to be most difficult. The Charger defense stole 3 passes and logged 4 quarterback sacks, while the offense got some production out of tight end Bob Klein, number 84. San Diego won 22-13, and Coach Don Coryell still feels his team has a chance for the playoffs. His old team in St. Louis will not participate in the postseason games, but they have improved in recent weeks. Against the Giants, the Cardinals used their long-range passing to open up a 20-point first-half lead. New York came back with some air power of its own. A Joe Pisarcik to Jimmy Robinson bomb, good for 52 yards and a touchdown. But they could not do this often enough to catch the Cards, so they found themselves on the short end of a 20-10 score. New York's loss puts them in a third-place tie in their division with Philadelphia, who last week faced a very young and talented group of Green Bay Packers. Players like number 43, Andre Thompson, typify the spirit and determination of the youthful pack. But a young team is also apt to make mistakes, and the Packers made a lot of them against the Eagles. A picture-perfect touchdown strike from quarterback David Whitehurst to wide receiver James Lofton, number 80, was wiped out by a holding penalty, one of 7 infractions Green Bay committed during the game. The Packers also were guilty of 6 turnovers, the most costly being a fumbled punt near their own goal line, which set up the only touchdown of the afternoon. The Eagle defense and Packer boo-boos were the keys to a 10-3 Philadelphia victory. It was the Eagles' 5th win of the year, as many wins as they enjoyed in all of last season. The score was quickly relayed to the Midwest. Welcome to good news for the Packers' chief division rivals, the Minnesota Vikings. Against the Lions, Vike quarterback Fran Tarkenton had a rough day, throwing 3 interceptions and losing 3 teeth as well. Detroit sent Tarkenton a get-well card in the form of several costly errors. This helped cheer the ailing Viking, who received some speedy dental repair, then returned hale and hearty for the second half. Francis then engineered 2 touchdown drives as Minnesota beat the Lions 17-7. Fortunately for Tarkenton, his injury will not keep him out of action. The same cannot be said for San Francisco's O.J. Simpson, who suffered a shoulder separation last week in Atlanta. He will be out indefinitely. Another blow for a team that has had more than its share of bad news. The 49ers played their first game under new coach Fred O'Connor, but the results were still the same. The Falcon defense was stingy as usual, and the offense, led by quarterback Steve Bartkowski, was more than adequate. Only 5 days before, Bartkowski had suffered a shoulder injury of his own, but it did not keep him from having a fairly productive day. Atlanta spotted the 49ers a field goal, then scored 3 straight touchdowns and went on to a 21-10 triumph. It was the Falcons' 4th straight victory, their longest winning streak since 1973. In Pittsburgh's Three Rivers Stadium, a strong-armed quarterback having his greatest season ever put on quite a show. No, it was not Terry Bradshaw, but the Saints' Archie Manning, who triggered an aerial barrage that saw the 8-year veteran pass for 22 of 32 and a career-high 344 yards against Pittsburgh's conference-leading Steel Curtain defense. Off to their fastest start and needing just one more win for the best record in their 11-year history, the Saints surprised the Steelers by taking a 1-point lead in the 4th quarter. But with 1:51 left, Bradshaw hit pressure player supreme Rocky Bleier with his first regular season touchdown reception ever. The come-from-behind win mushroomed Pittsburgh's season record to 9-1, the best in the entire NFL. Against New England, the Buffalo Bills had their moments in a futile attempt to stop the Patriots' streaking juggernaut. Buffalo is force-feeding such youngsters as number 1 pick Terry Miller and number 47 Curtis Brown in an effort to hype the ground game. The Bills' only touchdown came when quarterback Joe Ferguson speared the always dependable Bob Chandler with an 11-yard touchdown pass. Meanwhile, the Patriots' number 1 ranked offense rolled for 279 yards on the ground, 128 of them by number 23, rising star Horace Ivory. New England scored twice on 2 touchdowns by Ivory, just enough to rack up a team record 7th straight victory and stay 1 game ahead of Miami in the AFC East. Meanwhile, in Houston's Astrodome, the Cleveland Browns drew first blood in a shootout for second behind Pittsburgh in the AFC's Central. But Cleveland's offensive line was hardly a clockwork orange as the Oilers poured through to sack Brian Sipe 7 times. Cleveland coach Sam Rutigliano unknowingly had fueled the Oilers' defensive desire when he said the Browns should be able to pass on Houston's 3-4. Sam and Sipe found out differently last week. The game's key play came on 3rd and 1 with the Browns bunch for the run. Dan Pastorini lofted a home run to wide-open and lonely Mike Barber, number 86. The 235-pound tight end went 72 yards as Houston eked out a 14-10 victory that all but eliminated Cleveland from the playoff picture, while Houston hopes continue to fly high. With autumn in full bloom, the stretch drive toward the playoffs has begun. Not surprisingly, Jim Zorn and the Seattle Seahawks arrived in Chicago still in contention in the AFC Western Division. There they put their conference-leading air game on display. The focal point of Seattle's explosive attack is the touchdown combination of Zorn and number 80 Steve Largent. Between Largent's precise patterns and sure hands and Zorn's ability to throw a football on the run, Seattle owns one of the game's best young pass and catch combinations. But the Hawks also boast a collection of fine young runners. Most prominent is number 47 Sherman Smith, whose 152-yard day against the Bears was the finest individual rushing performance in Seattle's brief history. Chicago, meanwhile, had lost 6 straight. So what better way to shake up the Seahawks than with a quarterback change? In this case, the insertion of number 15, Mike Phipps. Fullback Roland Harper vaulted to one of Chicago's 2 second-half touchdowns as the Bears chipped away at Seattle's game-long lead. But with time on the wane, the Bears were forced to resort to more drastic measures. Sometimes the old onside kick works. When it does, head coaches must suffer a quantum leap in blood pressure. In this case, Jack Patera's Seahawks had led almost from the outset, but suddenly the possibility of a game-winning Bear field goal loomed large. However, for want of better field position, that field goal attempt never transpired. Number 38, Seahawk cornerback Cornell Webster made the key interception. Then, upon checking the circumstances, he took it upon himself to run out the clock. Thus did the Bears' comeback fall short. A field goal would have reversed the final results. But without those 3 points, the disappearing Bears may as well have not scored at all. Out in Denver, the Broncos scored early and often in their meeting with the underdog New York Jets. Denver fullback John Keyworth rumbled 5 yards with the day's first 6-pointer. Soon thereafter, Denver's Orange Crush defense converted 2 Jet turnovers into easy scores, rolling up a seemingly insurmountable 28-7 lead. 'Twas then that a little-known backup quarterback named Matt Robinson decided to take apart the AFC's stingiest defense. New York's light-stepping receivers picked their way through Denver's secondary for 200-plus yards. In period 3, running back Scott Durking hammered home the Jets' 3rd touchdown as New York pulled to within 4. Then, late in the final period, Robinson laid to rest Denver's claim that the 4th period belongs to the Broncos. "75 yards later, Wesley Walker scored the eventual game winner as the Jets upset the slumping Broncos 31-28. Down 28-7 and coming off a shellacking in New England, the Jets appeared to be a team on the decline. But despite injuries and other assorted adversity, this team continues to play well against the NFL's stiffest competition. Even without first unit quarterback Richard Todd, Walt Michaels' club has managed to remain competitive. They're the youngest team in football. They're still a factor in the AFC Eastern Division. and their visit to Denver's Mile High Stadium will not soon be forgotten.